Okay guys, we're going to look at factoring still. This is still review of factoring. But we're going to look at now how to do that for trinomials. The previous video was about the smaller, easier stuff, and we're definitely going to look at trinomials. They're the most important group that we'll look at. So I want to show you how to do those. So a trinomial comes in a couple of pieces. Let's try this one here. Now the problem is that it isn't quite as easy to pull it into pieces. When we had a binomial, we could like pull out an x, but you'll notice there's not an x in everything. There isn't a number that goes into 6, -1, and 1 other than 1, so this is kind of tricky. So what I want to teach you first is to review how are these things made. And if we can figure out how they're made, then maybe we can figure out how to unmake them. So let's show you. A binomial like this, you follow a distribution pattern that basically has each item multiplied once. So you'd get x squared, and then as you multiply that, you'd get 2x. And as you do this, you'd get minus 3x. And as you do this, you'd get -6. Notice that the middle group can be added together to give you the -1x minus 6. There's our guy. So actually, do you see how legitimately these two are what are called the factors of this thing? Because they're two things that divide into it cleanly, and they multiply together to give you the original item. So it would be nice to be able to see a pattern. Let me see if we can see the pattern. This middle number is made up of adding the two numbers together. -3 and the 2 made the -1. Look at this. The last number is made up by multiplying those same two numbers. When you multiply them, you get this. So we've learned a very important thing. This term is made by multiplication. This term is made by addition, subtraction. Let me start a fresh example and explain it to you. So, how is this thing created? Well, we learned that you can create it with a little bit of ingenuity. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to this number. So let's set that up. Something times something equals -8. The same two numbers will add together to obtain the middle number, this plus 2. So we have to just solve the little puzzle. What multiplies to -8? Well, just generally, your numbers for 8 will be 2 and 4, and 1 and 8. That is going to be our guy. So it looks like +2 and -4. Why did I pick those? Because they multiply to -8, but they add to +2. So our final answer would be x plus 4 and x minus 2. That would be how you could factor this one out. Let's do another. Let's keep going until we feel comfortable. All right, let's factor this. So again, we've learned that we're going to break this down. We always have x in the front because x times x gives us x squared. That may change later. We'll see. So I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to 9, but will add to +10. That's pretty easy. Your numbers that multiply to 9 are these ones, and you can see that the 9 and the 1 are going to be the magic numbers. So let's put in a 1 and a 9, and that works out nicely. So it would be x plus 1 and x plus 9 would be the way that we factor that. So maybe the last thing I'll do is provide you kind of the generic, the summary of that, those ideas. Let me just clear out a little space here. So here's the general idea. If I have x squared plus, well, let's call that bx plus c, right? And if I created, let's see, G and H, let's say. To get B, the middle term, you need G and H to add together to give you that. Right? To get B, you're going to add these two numbers. But to get C, you are going to multiply those two numbers together. So it's a nice little shortcut in terms of how it works and how you can solve it. Again, let me I'll just do two quick ones just to give it to you. How about if I go the other way? If I say x minus 2 and x plus 7, check out how easy this is. If I add them together, I get the middle term, so I would get plus 5x. And if I multiply them together, I get the last term, which would be minus 14. Very cool, huh? If I go the other way, and this is where I'll finish it, let's go the other way. What happens if you had the trinomial? Let me just think here. Let's do this. What we would be looking for is two numbers that multiply to negative 12 but add to negative 4. And we'd have to do a little thinking. I think we would find it to be negative 6 and 2. And so factoring that would break it into these two pieces. Why is this called factoring? Because we took something and we found two things that multiply to give you that item. This is called factoring.